All right, and we're live, and I'm here with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
Hello, everyone.
And yeah, so a couple of things I want to talk about. We were just shooting a shit about like old Disney cartoons before we started, like DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Tailspin. And I mentioned that I loved DuckTales when I was a kid, and I loved Darkwing Duck. And I liked Chippendale Rescue Rangers, but I never liked Tailspin. I couldn't get into Tailspin at all as a kid. And we were talking about some of the other ones. And I don't know why exactly with Tailspin, and a lot of people talk about it was one of their favorites. I just couldn't get into it at all. Some of the other ones that were pretty good were like ones that were not, I wouldn't even say based off of like the movies, but like directly tied into some of the movies. Like the Aladdin cartoon was fantastic. And it actually, in like solid continuity, takes place between the second and third Aladdin movies. And the Little Mermaid cartoon was decent. That was like a prequel to the show. Disney had some fucking rocking cartoons when I was a kid. People forget, like, a lot of people don't even understand how kind of important to television history, like DuckTales was. The Aladdin cartoon is on fucking DVD. I did not know that. You can get the whole Aladdin TV show on DVD. That's fantastic. Oh man, I got to keep my eye out for that.
Apparently so.
Although I don't know. It might be one of those things I loved as a kid that I try and watch now and doesn't hold up. Who knows? I'm often surprised and interested how cartoons hold up to, like, us being a cynical adult. Like some of them hold up still pretty good. Like I've watched Darkwing Duck and DuckTales as an adult, or at least not the entirety of them, but a lot of them. They're still pretty good. The Sonic cartoon with Princess Sally is really good. The Ninja Turtles cartoon from the 80s still holds up pretty good. G.I. Joe and Transformers are pretty solid, given for the time and all. But then sometimes you watch some and you're like, oh, this was great. And, when you're a kid and you watch it as an adult and you're like, what the fuck was wrong with me? Like,
with DuckTales, especially for me, it's kind of like a mixed bag. Because on the one, like it is a mixed bag sometimes, but sometimes the old DuckTales has such great stuff. It's kind of hard to avoid it. But sometimes you think, oh man, the only reason I watched this because it was the only thing on TV at the time.
Well, when I went back and watched the Sonic cartoon, like the good one with Princess Sally, not the fucking Adventures one, I find the only real flaws is you get some of that typical bad villain plan where you're looking at his plan like, well, if you just did this instead, you could just kill them all and be done with it. This is easier than you're making it. And then also some of the cheesy dialogue, like a lot of times when these action cartoons tried a little too hard to be funny, it didn't age well. Like some of Raphael's dialogue in the old Ninja Turtle cartoon is just cringy as shit.
Yeah, Raphael. I remember Raphael in the original series. He was kind of like he's kind of like Falco from Star Fox before he became edgy and dark.
If I had a kid, I'm pretty sure at this point, like, I'm not sure if I could trust almost anything on TV. So I think I'd just gather up some of the classic cartoons I enjoyed and be like, here, this is what you're watching on Saturday morning.
But you get the DVDs of Looney Tunes, even the parts with the quote-unquote racist bits.
Yeah, I get like Looney Tunes. I get like Animaniacs, like DuckTales and Darkwing Duck, the old Sonic cartoon, fucking the old Ninja Turtles cartoon. The Ninja Turtles cartoon from 2003, that at least it started in 2003, was pretty good too. It was almost like halfway between the 80s cartoon and the original Eastman and Lord comics. But it was pretty good. I haven't seen really any of the new Ninja Turtle shit like from that Nickelodeon's doing, so I can't really comment on that.
Well, it's a little more. It's a little sillier. It's a little sillier. I mean, they are trying to maintain some semblance of continuity, and the art style. The art style is pretty impressive. It's just that they're, for characters being called teenage Ninja Turtles, there's always this indication they always feel like much older than the teenager should be. I guess that's what this series is trying to make them younger than they are.
I remember on the '03 one, there were a couple seasons where they called it like Flash Forward or something, where they actually traveled into the future. Where like at first they thought the Triceratons rule, like the aliens that look like Triceratops, they thought that they had taken over the Earth, but it was just at this point it's like intergalactic shit, and there's just aliens coming and going on Earth, and it's just common. Um, and then I remember the '03 actually ended. I caught the ending thing. It's called Turtles Forever, where it's like an interdimensional crossover where they actually meet the Ninja Turtles from the old '80s show.
Oh, that was a good episode. They work together with the '80s show, and they actually go back to the comic book universe to stop Shredder from destroying this version of Shredder destroying the multiverse.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It kind of made it tried to like paint the differences as the '80s cartoon was like super cheesy and the '03 cartoon wasn't. But I caught enough of the '03 cartoon to know that it had its bullshit cheesy moments. And the '80s cartoon, at least when it started, was not that cheesy. It got really, really, really cheesy up until like the last 2 seasons when it got really, really fucking dark for some reason.
There was a segment. There's actually a scene where they say, "Does this happen all the time?" Oh no, yeah. April gets kidnapped every other week.
Yeah, when they go back to their dimension, they're like, "We got to save April." Like, what do you mean? It's like, oh well, we've been gone for like 3 days. She has to have been kidnapped by now. Ugh. But yeah, if I had a kid, I'd definitely just get a bunch of classic cartoons on fucking DVD. I don't think I'd even have a fucking cable or anything like that. Hell, I probably don't even think I'll have mine much longer. In fact, planning on canceling it next month. I had like the last time I renewed it, part of the renewing thing was like if you cancel it, you get a big fee, but that fee goes down each month. So I've been kind of waiting on it to either go away or at least go down to almost nothing. I forget who it is, but yeah, I was going to say that character with the clocks and all, she was directly lifted from the comic. And
yeah, actually,
she was they had her in the '03 cartoon too. And the issue you're putting it up there. The issue where she appears, it crosses over with that Cerebus comic.
Yeah, I actually own a copy of this.
For a very long time, it was really hard to get that reprinted because Eastman and Lord, they don't own Cerebus, you know what I mean? And I think it was like '09 or '10 or 2010 or something when they first did a really big reprint that included that issue. Like I had this big trade paperback that has it has the first 10 issues of the old black and white Ninja Turtle comic, plus like there was a one shot for each of the characters, and it has those in it. So it's got like 4, and then I think there was a Fugitoid one shot. So it was like 15 issues worth in it. Good stuff though. The old Ninja Turtle cartoon the old Ninja Turtle comics definitely worth a read if you can find a good reprint of it.
And if I'm not mistaken, they actually defeat Shredder in the first like the first comic, and he never comes back.
Oh, he comes back, but he doesn't come back. He comes back in like issue 10. But yeah, they fucking kill his ass in issue 1, I think.
Yeah, they don't have the Batman dilemma where they just keep their villains alive.
Yeah, they deal with them. Yeah, they just straight up off his ass.
And I see the animated series took some slight adjustments to the girl's costume.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, that's definitely what I did. And any parents out there, that's honestly what I suggest. Like, go get you some classic cartoons, have the kid watch that. And I mean, there are some modern cartoons that aren't bad. I wouldn't have a cable thing. I just get cartoons on DVD and shit. That's delightful. The other thing I want to talk about, a little bit more serious than just bullshitting about cartoons. I saw this video up on Facebook, and it's so along the desert border in our country, going along Mexico, a lot of do-gooders fucking put up like water stations and shit to, oh, these poor immigrants, they'll die of dehydration. And sometimes immigrants just set them up themselves and shit. Well, these border patrol agents, they're having none of this shit. They're dismantling and destroying these little water stations and shit. Which last I checked is their fucking job. But we're all supposed to be outraged about how they're doing this. Oh, humanitarian groups and shit like that, and fuck it. No. I understand the humanitarian aspect that you're trying to prevent people from dying in the desert. Okay. I can sympathize with that. But there comes a point when you're aiding and abetting criminals. All right. And yeah, these border patrol agents are dead right. And don't tell me this is inhumane or shit like that. Because there's a lot of countries throughout history that would be setting up fucking landmines or something. All right. These people are invading our country. And for many countries throughout history, that was damn near a death sentence. All right. So the mere fact that we're just sending them back and not sending back their heads show us that we're pretty chill fucking people. All right. But no, everybody's, how dare these border patrol agents do their fucking job?
Is this video trying to suggest that the border patrol people are doing something wrong?
Yeah, and it's funny. It's I caught this on Facebook because now this is some left-wing shit, but they're all like, oh, look at these border patrol agents destroying this shit, right? Vandalized supplies left for migrants,
illegal migrants.
Yeah, well, at least they're calling them migrants because they're not immigrants. That's the other thing. They're not immigrants. Immigrant implies a desire to become an American. No, they're migrant. They're migrating. All right, is what they're doing. I think a less polite way to put it is invading. But yeah, fuck them. Fuck them. Actually, what the Border Patrol agents should be doing is, I don't know, trying to maybe like hide somewhere and wait till fuckers come by for it or something. They ought to be using these as attempts at like traps.
Although technically there is like, unless this is actually a confirmed normal path that they take, so they would be watching it all the time anyway.
No, probably. But yeah, fuck them. I mean, I get it. You want to be, I remember a few years ago, and to his credit, Hannity, who is a Catholic, was arguing with this guy really fiercely, but Hannity had this Catholic priest on there who was leading some sort of fucking, some sort of little quote unquote missionary shit where he was putting these water stations throughout the desert and all. And, because Lord knows nothing, Lord knows the Catholic Church is pretty good at subversion. But yeah, Hannity is calling him out. He's like, yeah, I understand you're trying to keep people from dying in the desert, but at a certain point, you're aiding and abetting criminals.
I imagine the priest didn't take it very well.
Nope. Well, we're all God's children, and it's just, it was all those cliches. I don't see borders from space or something. Like, yeah, I don't see your property line either. Can I crash at your house?
Yeah, I'm reasonably certain that the Bible instructs us to obey the laws of the land. I'm pretty sure it's in there.
I mean, yeah, you know what? National borders are just imaginary lines in the sand we draw. But you know what? They're important lines. All right. Your property line is also an imaginary line.
And I liked what Andrew Clavin actually said in response to this. No other country in the world ever fails to protect its borders because they know that the benefits of that country can't continue to exist without the political cohesion that borders can provide.
Yeah. You can't have a nation without borders. I understand, and some of the libertarians out there are like, oh, well, people should be able to come and go as they please. Yeah, sure. We don't live in shitland, though.
Yeah, actually, the person I was responding to, he actually made a video. Well, 6 Seconds Hammer made a comment about how libertarianism is kind of not like politically feasible at the moment, especially at the border. And he said, well, of course, because in an anarcho-capitalist society, there would be no one to enforce force. And like, yeah, but there are no anarcho-capitalist societies to begin with. You have to wait till that gets to exist first.
Also, in an anarcho-capitalist society, everyone would, in theory, be enforcing the border of their property line with pretty fucking deadly force. So there wouldn't
Oh,
be a whole lot of people coming and going as they please, would there?
although, if I'm hearing the Libertarians correctly, the only way that they can have that true anarcho-capitalist idea, like for everyone to go wherever they want, is for everyone in the world to be anarcho-capitalists, where there are no borders, there are no states.
I mean, look, I could maybe entertain an idea of not fully open borders, but much more open borders if the whole world was first world and relatively free. It's the same with free trade. Like completely free trade, if the whole world was relatively free and first world, free trade would probably absolutely be a net benefit for everybody. But that's not the world we live in. Maybe one day it will be, but it sure as hell isn't the world we live in right now. And with the world we live in right now, where there's a bunch of communist countries, there's a bunch of third world hellholes, there's a bunch of places where people are essentially working to death as slaves, free trade doesn't work. And where there's a bunch of fucking socialist hellholes and there's a bunch of third world nations, and we have a welfare state, then yeah, open borders sure as hell doesn't work. Because again, I'm sympathetic to the idea of people should be able to come and go as they please. Um, yeah, I get that, but we don't live in should land. So yeah, I want to talk about that video a little bit because it was just again, it's like, oh, look at these evil guys, doing that job they're supposed to do. The other thing I want to talk about is I want to poke fun at Davis Arini a little bit. Now, of course, Davis is a friend of the show. He's on here all the time. He's a personal friend of mine, has been for many years. Oh, you found a clip. Oh, cool. You found
I found a thumbnail image, but I'm not sure if this is the right one.
Probably. Maybe it's not. But anyways.
But it is a good title. It is a good title, though.
So Davis did a stream. For me, it was this morning. 6 a.m. I was watching it because I'm just up really early. I had gotten off of a third shift job, and it's kind of I've gotten myself flipped to where I'm actually a morning person for once. Like I'm kind of tired now. It's like 9:30. I feel like I'm fucking 60. Like I want to go to bed at like 8, 9, 10. But I was up at 6 this morning. Davis was doing a very late night stream for him because he's 3 hours behind on his time zone. And he was going off about some typical Catholic BS. But Davis keeps making this point that Benedict is not the Pope. Francis is not the Pope. Benedict is really the Pope. He's apparently a secret Pope. I don't know how that works. Maybe that's like a Gamma secret king or something. But Benedict is really the Pope, even though, he's not. I mean, like Francis is the Pope. Okay, he's got the big hat. The whole power structure of the Catholic Church is calling him the Pope. He's the Pope. All right. And it just seems like I don't know how else to describe this because it's a bit of a trivial comparison, but it just seems like, when somebody's like really, really into it, maybe like a TV show or a movie series or a comic book series or something, and there's some sort of continuity error, and they come up with their own headcanon to try and explain away that continuity error. That seems like what Davis is doing here. Like he's coming up with his own headcanon to explain away some bullshit. Like Francis is the Pope, all right? He's the Pope. There's no getting around that. And I'm not going to say that Francis has gone so far off the rails that he completely disproves the validity of the Catholic Church with his insanity. But he certainly isn't helping the case for the Catholic Church. Let's put it that way. Um, release dates are the only true timeline. Uh, yeah, Zelda timelines. That's a whole new. I wonder where the fuck Breath of the Wild is supposed to fit in the official Zelda timelines. I kind of get the impression it's after the like the original NES games, but which are supposed to be at the end of one of the timelines. But I don't know. That's getting sidetracked there. Um, but yeah, it just strikes me as that like Francis or Francis is the Pope. You know, you may not like that. I mean, I don't really care on one level because, I'm not inclined to take seriously what a faggot in a big hat says in the first place. Um, but like I don't need the Pope to be right. I accept the fact that the Pope is frequently wrong. I don't need the office of the papacy to hold any validity because it never has held validity for me in the first place. Um, Somebody in the chat says, "Who gives a flying crap? They reject the gospel." I wouldn't say full on reject it, but they definitely distort it. Oh. So he says David Serini is the secret pope. Uh, let's see. 007 Pope. Let's see. So he says it's a stance called sede vacantism, which says that the current pope is not. Well, no, supposedly that stance is believing that there hasn't been a pope in such and such amount of time. And Davis says he's not that. His stance is, and again, I don't understand where he is getting the justification for this, aside from the fact that he wishes it to be true. His stance is that no, Francis is not the Pope. Benedict is still the Pope. I don't know. I don't know where he's getting at. Somebody says Davis didn't describe it well, but it is a vast criminal conspiracy, so the offices are masked. There's a lot to do with Vatican Bank Knights of Malta. Okay, well, I've heard the conspiracy theory, and it's probably, I shouldn't say probably true. I wouldn't doubt it, that the reason Benedict quit is because he was being threatened by the fucking the pink mafia that, I mean, let's be real, is the Catholic Church at this point as far as power structure. And that's why Francis quit. Which, I mean, okay, that may indeed be the case. That wouldn't surprise me in the least. But he quit. The reasons for why Francis is the Pope and Benedict is not now, I mean, could be somebody in the chat says Benedict is on double secret probation. Animal House reference. I like that. Get Niedermeyer on it. He's a sneaky little shit, just like you. But no, the reasons why this is the case are a whole different question from the fact that this is the case. Let's see. When the Pope dies, does he go to hell or become Satan's bitch? I don't know. I mean, the current Pope is going to hell. I'm pretty sure of that. I mean, I hesitate to say that of another professing Christian, but if I was a betting man, the Roman Catholics should become Eastern Orthodox. One of the things that always fascinates me is how the Catholics and the Orthodox, like the Catholic Church, does not have nearly as much disdain for the Orthodox splitting away as they do for the Protestants. And the interesting thing is, like, the Protestant Reformation, that was an issue of actual doctrine. Okay. And I mean, maybe this is why the Catholic, but the Orthodox Church split away from the Catholic Church. Essentially, as I understand it, two different people thought they were in charge, and both pettily excommunicated the other. And to each decided to take their ball and go home. The split from the Orthodox and the Catholic Church is entirely based on power and pettiness and personality, and there isn't really any doctrine they were fighting over. I think they were arguing over which fucking language to use or something like that. Whereas, the Protestant Reformation was a result of, hey, maybe we should be looking at what the actual scripture says instead of some faggot in a big hat. And honestly, I mean, Orthodoxy and Catholicism are Coke and Pepsi as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. The Roman Catholics should become Eastern Orthodox. I read that comment already. Orthodox priests are allowed to get married. That is, honestly, the Orthodox Church is better than the Catholic Church. I'll say that much. But, I also think Pepsi is better than Coke. Neither one is particularly good for you. Like if you're on a diet or something, they're both basically poison, sugary poison. So yeah, I like the Orthodox Church more than the Catholic Church, but I mean,
although to be fair, the Catholic Church tradition is more directly correlated with Protestantism because the Western Church actually has a history of study, tradition, and debate, whereas the Eastern Church, they don't really debate theology; they just embrace it as a mystery and tradition.
Well, the Orthodox Church, at least as far as I know, is not nearly as horrifically systematically corrupt as the Catholic Church. I mean, if they are, and I've heard Catholics try and tell me they're just as bad.
As far as we know at the moment.
Yeah, that's always the Catholic defense, is this or that is just as bad. But as far as I can tell, they're not. That's a pretty low bar, though. It's like, congratulations on not systematically covering up for pedophiles, for example. But that's hardly the highest praise I can give you. And they have some more basic common sense ideas, like they don't have a pope, which is smart. And they don't, their priests can actually marry, which again is smart. Personally, I don't understand having the shepherd of your congregation. Why you necessarily want that to be some 40-year-old virgin. And don't come at me with Christ was a 33-year-old virgin. Don't come at me with that crap. All right, Christ, the guy running your church is not Christ. All right, I want a family man.
Yeah, Jesus is our God, but I would expect like my pastor to be more relatable to me. I mean, I can't really be relatable to Jesus.
I mean, on some level, yeah, you are, because, he was a man. He was tempted the same way you are. But at the same way, Christ had a particularly unique mission in life. All right. Yeah, I prefer a pastor that's an actual family man. I realize I myself am neither married nor have children. But, I think being a father is a pretty good qualification for being a pastor. I think there's a lot of parallels there. Somebody says Paul wasn't married either. I mean, I'm not suggesting everybody has to be married, but ideally, yeah, I'd like a pastor to be, a family man. I'd like them to be a man. I'm sorry. Most people can't handle virginity. All right. Most people can't handle celibacy their whole life. They go fucking insane. All right. If you're in your 30s and you're a virgin, you probably are like movie Bob. Okay. So yeah, at a certain point, it's best that the guy in charge of whatever it is a man that knows what a pussy feels like. Okay. And I know though that's so vulgar and worldly, but you know what? It is an inherent need humans have. Man wants to be with woman and vice versa. Um, and I would argue a man and woman are just inherently, for the most part, better when they're in a relationship with one another. We make each other better. We complete each other. So yeah, I want a married man who has kids as a leader of the church. In the chat just said ideally a pastor should be a man who knows how to pile drive his wife so she walks funny at a church Sunday morning. That's not exactly how I would put it, but I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, and don't get me wrong, here in the evangelical circles, there's way too many fucking feminized, fucking just men leading the church who are just basically eunuchs. All right, I've known some guys who have stood up there, and I'm just kind of looking at them, and it's like I can't even focus on what they're saying because all I can think of is like this guy doesn't exist from the waist down. Like this, a better analogy is this is C.S. Lewis's man without a chest. You know, this is a eunuch up there. This is not a man. This guy has been castrated by a feminized society, and I don't like it. Let's see. I'm going through chat here a little bit. Oh yeah, speaking of feminized men in the church, there's good old John Stone Street. John Stone Street looks like an elementary school gym teacher with less tea. Like I don't he looks like he was at one point athletic and then just force fed a whole bunch of soy. Just constantly look he's duh. He just looks so stupid all the time. And I know it's like, oh, you're judging him by his appearance, but let's be real. I mean, half the time you can't anymore.
Yeah, not judging a book by its cover is not necessarily false.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, yeah, we tell kids you can't judge a book by its cover. No, what you should tell kids is you can't always judge a book by its cover. That's what we need to tell kids.
Oh yeah, here's a good one. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I know that books with tarred edges never get opened.
I mean, like, and let's also remember that what you just threw up there, those are two professional photographs too. That's not like, he threw on his fucking webcam or something. You know what I mean? That's professional lighting and shit like that. And he still looks like a fucking like middle-aged lesbian. Like looks like he should be Rosie O'Donnell's life partner. Yeah, don't think just because I shit on the Catholics a lot that, here's the thing with evangelical circles. This is what I have found in my experience with the church, with conservative Protestantism here in America. That's all I have to work with. When I am in actual churches on the grassroots of it all, this problem of overly feminized men leading the church, it doesn't seem to be there. I've encountered it a little bit, but for the most part, the men I have seen leading the churches I have been involved with have been men. They've been often men that I find aspirational to be around. Um, Even ones I've had real disagreements with, for the most part, have been men. There's one I dealt with is kind of a bit of a feminine weasel, but most of them men. And that's not what that's not what you see on the national stage. On the national stage, they're pussies. They're little effeminate weasels. They're Eric Metaxas. They're James Dobson. They're guys like that. They're Russell Moore. They're guys like that. They're cucks. They're effeminate weasels. And oh my God. Luke, you are killing me. He died.
Thank the comment section.
He just looked like that. He's like, oh my God. That's so perfect. Oh, okay. Um, but yeah, at the net now, I've discussed why this is on here before, and I'll say it again. I think the reason for that is when you have what you have at the top level, the on the national stage for evangelicals, are the guys that lead parachurch ministries, as it were. A lot of times, these sort of media empires, and more often than not, those kind of evangelical media empires, well, they a big chunk of their audience, the lion's share at least, is a bunch of stay-at-home moms or Christian moms or whatever. So you have media that appeals more to the feminine nature, and that's kind of how you end up with an over feminized church. That combined with the overall feminism in our culture. That's why you see such a disparity between um, conservative Protestantism on the national stage and what you actually see at the grassroots, what you actually see when you're not just looking at the guys on TV. And one of the best examples, now this is a bit more political, but it does show you the discrepancy between the two, right? Back in the 2012 election cycle, um, there was something called the Values Voters Summit, which is this big conference held where a bunch of evangelicals get together and they sort of vote on, they have their own little straw poll, as it were. And they vote on both Democrats and Republicans, like in the nominate, the primaries. And again, it's just a straw poll. It's not binding, but nobody cares what they say about the Democrats. The Democrats sure don't care. So back in 2012, you would think maybe who would win that straw poll thing, right? You'd think it'd be like a guy like Rick Santorum, right? But it actually was Ron Paul. And the guy that came in second wasn't even Rick Santorum. It was Herman Cain, who basically, if you remember back then, ran as Ron Paul Light or Ron Paul Dark, if you want to make the joke. And yeah, there it is. And then a little while after that, a bunch of evangelical leaders got together. Guys like James Dobson, I think, Eric Metaxas and John Stone Street there were involved. A bunch of the big leaders of that movement got together, and they had their own little poll, and it was Rick Santorum, and Ron Paul was like dead last. Now, that's not quite the same issue of what I'm talking about of, a lack of manliness. I'm not saying it's inherently more manly to support Ron Paul, although I think I could make that argument over Rick Santorum. But what it does show you is a big disconnect between the quote unquote leaders of evangelicalism and actual evangelicals. It's and again, when I was first getting involved in the church and the mid to late 2000s, when I was first starting to go to church heavily, I was very pleasantly surprised that what I encountered was not what I had seen on TV. And I'm not talking about liberal media's negative portrayals. I'm talking about when I would go to the religious channels and watch these programs. I'd be like, man, these guys, I don't like these guys, but they're not the guys I encountered when I was actually in the church. Let's see. Um, Let's see. Going to the chat here. Oh, hey, Bechtloff, if you see this, did you watch the Vox Day and Ethan Van Scrive's interview on YouTube the other day? I did not. I hadn't caught it now. Let's see. So this is Catholics lumping all together all prots is fucking gay. Well, the biggest problem there is they speak out of both sides of their mouth. They want to constantly run their mouth about how there's quote unquote 6 billion different kinds of Protestants, while at the same time they want to they want to argue from the point that all Protestants are the same. Somebody says Russell Moore is a complete disaster. Yeah, you're not wrong. Somebody says, my general opinion is Catholic leaders are too gay and evangelicals are pussy whipped by women in the government. That seems fair. Let's see. I'll tell you one of the worst quote unquote evangelical guys out there is fucking John Hagee. That guy's batshit crazy. And I at times I'm not even sure if he's batshit crazy or just, first of all, he is a huge shill for the tribe. Like, even among and evangelicals have way too much of a fucking Israel fetish. I've often said that my theology, I'm essentially an evangelical minus the literal creationism and Israel fetish. Well, I mean, John Hagee has got him an Israel fetish a mile wide. He's got a bigger boner for Israel than I have for redheads. I mean, I've seen him have like Jewish fucking ceremonies at his church. Like, I think he actually had a Passover ceremony at one point. Like, wasn't going over the Passover ceremony, had it. He's got some book out now called like Blood Moons or some shit, where it's one of these stupid fucking like, I found this number code in the Bible or something, and 2018 is going to be an important year. It's just pure on fucking snake oil bullshit. Like, John, the 4 blood moons, there we are. Motherfucker's been playing too much Breath of the Wild. He heard Link, the blood moon is rising one too many times and took it seriously. Something is about to change. What a bullshit, like, something is about to change, Luke. What a fucking prediction there, isn't it? What a prediction. Really, Hank?
In the book of In Defense of Israel, he actually was going to suggest that Jesus did not come to be the Messiah.
I've heard him that supposedly hints around with the idea that Jews don't need Christ to be saved or something. Like, look, modern Judaism is full on a religion of racial supremacism, and this cucked motherfucker seems to buy into it, and he's all about sucking on them short little snipped peckers. Yeah, John Hagee's a piece of shit. Like, people ask me, you think John Hagee's truly saved? And God forgive me, sometimes I hope not. Let's see, what do we got in here? Blood moons. Damn it, Bechtloff, you beat me to it. Yeah, 4 blood moons sounds like bad Twilight fan fiction. So he says the worst is Ted Haggard. Let's see, going through the chat here. Israel gets Gibbs from U.S. Oh, yeah, the Israeli flag might as well be the U.S. dollar for as much as they're dependent on it. Somebody says Joel Osteen is pretty bad too. You know what? What I'm about to say might sound like a defense of Joel Osteen, but it's really not. It's just sort of half-ass kind of sounding that way. Like Joel Osteen's not the worst thing out there. All right. I know we all love the fucking he's become a punchline, and I get it, and he deserves to be, don't get me wrong. But like all he's really fucking doing is scamming some money out of some gullible fucking old ladies. And yeah, he shouldn't be doing that. But in my eyes, John Hagee is doing more actual damage to the cause of Christ. And I would also point out to the Catholics that bring up Joel Osteen at every fucking possible thing. To the best of my knowledge, Joel Osteen hasn't covered up for any pedophiles. And also, like, are you really going to be attacking Joel Osteen for fucking scamming money out of gullible idiots? I mean, shit, I could point to whole Catholic doctrines that were basically created for that sole purpose. Cough, cough, purgatory. Cough, cough, indulgences. So, I mean, you know, yeah, Joel is an amateur at the game the Catholic Church perfected. All right. He has to stand in awe, in awe of the Catholic Church's ability to scam people out of money. Let's see. And don't get me wrong, I mean, Osteen is an absolute piece of shit. And again, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't think he's genuinely a saved man. Far be it from me to let's see. Bechtloff, do you ever heard of Chrislam? Was that some sort of bastard child of Christianity and Islam? Yeah, I don't think I've heard of that. Let's see. Bechtloff, may I suggest watch Pastor Vody Bachman's sermon, Jesus is a Man of War, and the Church Sissified Jesus. Those are some damn fine masculine sermons. Well, I mean, yeah, the church did in many ways sissify Jesus, because, you know, the question of what would Jesus do? Well, sometimes the answer to that is, you know, burst into a room and start whipping motherfuckers. So, let's see. Going through the chat here a little bit. Joel Osteen is pretty bad too. Again, Osteen's a piece of shit, but like I said, there's far worse out there. Hell, Joel Osteen doesn't have as bad a theology as Russell Moore or has worse theology, I should say, than Russell Moore by a wide margin. But I would argue Moore probably is out there doing more damage with his cucked bullshit, his open borders, you know, Tower of Babel 2.0 horse shit. So he says, I remember people at my old church obsessing over those blood moons. Well, you know, it sucks when you get that blood moon right when you're in the middle of a goblin camp. You would clear it out. You know, you're wandering through a goblin camp, you clear it out, and then the blood moon hits. That's a bad time. That happened to me a couple of times playing Breath of the Wild. So I can see why Hagee is very concerned about the blood moons. You know, you gotta make sure you watch when that happens. I actually, when I was heading up towards the Zora domain in Breath of the Wild, it's funny. I had just cleared out a bunch of the lizard guys, and I decided, like, because it was starting to be nightfall, I decided to make a campfire and wait till sunrise to go to the. Because if you make a campfire, you could just press sit by the campfire, and you can basically skip forward, and in time, as it were. And so I did that, and I didn't realize that night was going to be a blood moon. So I pressed, skip till morning, and Then the blood moon animation clicked in, and then morning appeared, and all around me were the fucking lizard guys again. I was like, oh fuck. Let's see. We've probably been rambling on long enough. How long have we been going on? Yeah, a little under an hour. All right, folks. I'm probably gonna go ahead and wrap this up then. This dog's wanting to go out. If you enjoy the show, do check out the PayPal and the Patreon, folks. Help me keep doing the show. That helps. That all helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And also, if you want to sponsor the show, you get in touch with me. Sponsorship rates are very fair. If you want to sponsor a live stream where I discuss a specific topic for no less than an hour, get in touch with me on that. Sponsor, the rates there are pretty fair as well. And also on the 27th of June here, we're going to be having the return of the Saturday show, Rising. I think it lines up with one of the blood moons, but I'm not sure. We'll have to talk to Pastor Hagee on that. But that might be lining up with one of the blood moons. But it'll be the return of the Saturday show. I'm gonna try and get some special guests that I don't normally get, just since it's a return to form. We'll see what I can do. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so in fact, that woke AF Kirby, that is of course not me. He's actually been suspended for a week on Twitter. So I'm not on Twitter at all right now, nor is that guy who handles my messages. That is not me at all. But anyways, we'll see what I can scrounge up. But do check that out. That's January 27th, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back. And yeah. So that's all we got for tonight, folks. I want to thank you all for listening. Bechtloff out.